Hi everyone, it's Candy, and we're going to be doing another hair salon fail episode here. And it's not just one salon this time, we're going for a double whammy with two salons. Two salons in 2 days that totally fucked up. So, first of all, the first salon, I had spent months researching what look I wanted, how much it was going to cost, how difficult it was to do, getting recommendations for what salon to have it done at. I even looked at samples of their work. I went with this one salon particularly because I had seen their portfolio, and their portfolio had these great pictures of, women with blonde, and then they had like half blonde, half green, half purple, rainbow hair with like perfect transition. You know what I mean? When I see perfect transition, I mean like, it like flawlessly faded from like purple to gray so beautifully, gray, lavender, purple, just perfectly. It was gorgeous. So I figured, all right, well, this person has to know what they're doing if they did all of these. So I go in, I get my hair done. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Please, if you're a hairdresser, I would love to know what went wrong. And I'm not even going to name salons or, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast here. Really, I'm just trying to figure out, and I'd love to know what they're doing wrong so the next time I go to a salon, if they aren't doing it right, at least I know, and before there's a freaking disaster again, I can be like, no, 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 that's not the way to do it, or, if this is how you're gonna do it, I'll just go get it done somewhere else, or whatever. So the technique that was used, and I don't even know if I want to call it a technique, but she literally just, the first stylist literally just went through my hair and painted like, the roots, like I guess what they would do with the root shadow with a brush. She didn't use any foils. She barely used clips. She just like literally took like, she'd paint, let's say she was painting, she'd start over here and she'd paint in here, and then, move the thing with the brush and the little end of the brush and move it over to the next section and paint over here, and then just let that fall right on top of the next one, and so on and so forth. And I was kind of like curious because I wanted to say, like, aren't we supposed to put this in foils? But then again, like, being the customer, I certainly aren't an expert, and I don't want to, like, be that client that's like telling the stylist how to do their job even though I have no freaking clue what I'm talking about. So I was like, all right, this person's the professional. She knows what she's doing. If it needed to go into foils, it would have been put into foils. So naturally, when she goes to, like, actually not even before she rinsed me out, like, this is what happened. I don't even know. So before she even rinsed me out, I noticed that the ends of the hair here at the bank, because what I originally wanted was, I literally just wanted the ombre effect. Like, I literally wanted the roots to be like purple that faded into gray. Because the gray was kind of like blah, it kind of, blawed me out. So I needed some contrast, some dimension. I thought that would be the perfect way to add some dimension and also add like a little bit of cool color. I only wanted a little bit. I didn't want to be totally purple, you know what I mean? I wanted it to be something where like you could still technically, if you wanted to, get like a professional job. Like it wasn't, so prominent as to say, like, people be like, oh, that girl with the purple hair, which as you can see now is exactly what somebody would say. I'm the girl with the purple hair now. So I noticed that this was actually like turning blue. So I was like, wow, that really looks blue. So she ended up rinsing it out and then putting more purple dye on top of it. Now at the time, it didn't even dawn on me that like it was gonna turn like really dark, but it wasn't really gonna get more purple because like it was already blue and it was already kind of dark blue. So just adding more purple wasn't going to work, but at the time, again, I wasn't thinking, and then you start panicking when you see like something happening that you totally don't want, because I definitely did not want that horrible teal blue, which is exactly what it turned out to be. And the really strange thing about the whole thing was the woman who was doing my hair had the freaking teal color hair. So it was like I told her I wanted purple hair, and somehow she mixed up ingredients in her bowl that turned my hair teal, which I don't understand that. Like, they're nowhere near like the same color on the color wheel. I'm sure it's going to be a completely different package. It just doesn't make any sense. And even the part that she put in my root like turned, like, it was weird. It turned blue, but it was like a different blue than the blue like at the ends. But I guess that kind of makes sense because the ends are going to be a little bit more porous because they've been there the longest and they've had like the most chemical processing on them. So I do understand a little bit about like how this whole thing works, even though by no means am I an expert. So, you know, she put that in. So what ends up happening is it gets like really, really dark. It still looks kind of blue, kind of purple at the end when I go home. But it was like, then I get home and I've paid and everything and I wasn't all that happy, but you know, I was like, you know, whatever. I was like, I knew I should have done it at home. I was like, every time I go to a salon, they screw it up, and they screw it up like just as bad as if I would have done it at home. Like, no different. And sometimes they screw it up even worse. Like, the last time I went to the salon, they like burnt my scalp. Like, it was bad. I lost like portions of my hair. The hair got totally fried, and that's something that would have never happened at home because I would have never let like dye sit on my hair for an hour or an hour and a half like happened at the salon. But I don't even know where I was going with that, but at any rate, yeah, just bad luck. You know, I've gone to the salon to get a haircut, and I had hair that was like down to here, and I was supposed to get a trim, and the trim ended up being like shorter than what my hair is now. Like, literally, like the back of my head, like, actually it was probably shorter than the back of my head. That was what the hairdresser apparently thought a trim was. I don't know in what world, like, there's such a big difference between my idea of a trim and the hairstylist's idea of a trim, but that's what happened. So anyways, back to the experience at hand. So when I leave there, my hair is not purple, it's blue, and like the root shadow she did, like, you could barely even tell like that any dye had been deposited on the root. It was like impossible to see, and I really should have done a video before I went to another salon to try to fix it, but I didn't. So bear with me. This is kind of like the in-between photo. It's gonna be kind of hard to see it, but I don't know if you can just dye too. Yeah, see, it's really hard, but you see the spots that are like blue. Like, you can see my hair was gray, and then like there's the blue on the ends here, and then there was like a spot of blue here and a spot of blue there that just randomly, I guess, bled. I think because of the fact that there was no foils used. I'm not sure, you know. I don't know exactly what technique or what tools or whatever was required to do what I wanted. So like, to me, it's like, now I want somebody to tell me, because I need to know, because like I need to know if they start just like brushing the stuff on or using their fingers, that that's not the proper technique. And you know, I need to like hop out of that chair real quick before I end up with a mess. So this is what I was going for, just so you can tell like the huge difference here between what I wanted. See, you can see here the purple, like that's an ombre, it turns to gray. The transition is very nice. At the root you can see it's very dark, then it starts to get a little bit lighter purple, and then it just fades very nice, very pretty to that gray color. So the next day after this fiasco happened, and I've got the blue spots that are like over here, and like, you know, this much of like over here that's somewhat blue, and that like terrible color of blue too. And I took a shower to try to rinse it out, because I was like, all right, well, let's see how much will come out, because, you know, depending on how much of this blue is in my hair is really going to depend on like what color we can end up with and stuff like that, because now we're putting, it's not like it's gray, like it was gray white before, so it was like perfect to be processed, because it was just ready to take that color, was the right shade. Now when you have like another shade, you're dealing with like, you know, if you add, you know, red and blue or purple and green, like you're gonna, you know, it's gonna change the way that comes out. So when I washed it, like I couldn't believe it. Like it went from that like dark like indigo blue to like a like teal in just like one rinse, not even using shampoo. So literally by like that picture, like the next day, it was like the color was teal now, which is exactly what I didn't want. Oh, so I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. It looked terrible. I was like, I've got to have this fixed. I was like up at like, you know, midnight, you know, looking for salons, like messaging salons, sending them pictures of my hair, like, hey, can you help me? This is what I wanted, and this is what happened. And of course, a lot of people are saying, like, well, the problem is now, like, you know, your hair has been processed, or the integrity might be compromised. You know, in order to get, you know, your hair to the color that you want, you know, it's possible we might have to bleach it, strip it, you know, and all that stuff, which was like the whole thing. Like it was perfectly ready to take that color, and now there's a problem. So now when they have to go back, I understand that it's not going to be that easy to fix this, and it's not going to come out exactly like the picture, because there's already like issues. So they try to lighten it. It doesn't really lighten up any more than like that teal that I pretty much came in with, maybe just a tad bit. So at that point, like there's really nothing that they can do to get that out. So they ended up taking, I guess, like a Perp Riot, like Fire and Engine Red, I think it was called, and like adding that, I guess, to like a purple dye. So it did end up coming out purple, but again, the technique used was exactly the same. No foils, no clips, just like going through the hair and painting it. And while granted the second hairstylist took longer to paint it in, it still bled, and the result was that all of my hair is now purple. You know, and also like the whole entire bang hair is purple, which is not what I wanted. I was supposed to have, you know, this purple ombre on top, which was supposed to be dark. You can't even, I mean, this doesn't even really look like ombre at all. In fact, in some places, the roots actually look lighter than the rest of it, so, I mean, I don't know what happened here. This was supposed to be darker on top and then fade to gray, and then because there was, like, just a tiny, because we had to do something with these ends at that point, I wanted just a tip, you know what I mean? Not, like, the whole bang purple. This really, like, you know, I mean, if it was, like, just this much, you know what I mean? I think that would look good, especially if it was like a nice gradual transition, which is what I was looking for. And I just don't understand why all of these stylists, all of these professionals that supposedly do this work all the time can't get this right. Like, is there any salon that can get ombre right? And the crazy thing about it was the woman who did my hair originally, which was like really bad, she was about to do a balayage on somebody else when I left. And it's like, if she can't do this, then how is she supposed to do it? Like, you're supposed to have like a nice gradual transition. Not like a line or whatever, or in my case, I don't even know what this is. Like, it kind of, I mean, it's almost like highlights, but not really. Um, if this part, like I said, if this part had been this color and then it just turned darker at the end, I think that would have looked a lot better. I'm not really sure why they couldn't do that. Um, the woman was complaining that my hair was too short, and that's why the color bled all over the place. But to me, that doesn't really make sense. Like, I've seen people with ombre, like really good ombre hair, that has, like, especially like this piece should have been no problem. That's definitely long enough. And then, like, everybody remembers Justin Timberlake. I mean, how long was his hair? And it was frosted and highlighted, and it was literally like this long. So my hair's much longer than that. So I don't understand that. I mean, if somebody, like, please, if there's a hairstylist out there that can explain to me, like, what they did wrong, so that way I know, because I'm like, I don't even know, like, literally, like, when I left, I was like, oh, like, I literally wanted to take a razor and just shave my head and be like, I'm just done with hair. Like, I'm just done. I give up. I'm never doing my hair again. I'll just wear wigs for the rest of my life. I'm just done. Because I'm, like, literally at that point now where I just want to take razors and just get rid of all the hair and just never have to deal with this again, because I've just had it. And I've got to tell you, I've done my hair at home myself, and it's always, always turned out better than any time that I've walked into a salon. And I have no training. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I've probably done things a million times that I wasn't supposed to do, but somehow I didn't screw up royally. And the only reason that I didn't attempt this at home is it's like, okay, ombre on yourself. I mean, that's like a real challenge, just to be able to do it. And then I can't even see the back of my head, so I mean, that would be really, really hard to do on myself. It's the only reason that I even contemplated going into a salon again after all the other problems that I've had with salons. I mean, this, I guess, isn't terrible. Um, it's funny because if you comb it to certain areas, it kind of like looks like the transition is right, but then in other places it doesn't. And there's definitely like just random colors and random pieces, and it's definitely all purple, which again is like, that was like my number one thing when I started this process, is I didn't want to lose all of that. I mean, it was gray, but it was still blonde, and it wouldn't have been like a problem to get it back to blonde, because that gray would fade out. Gray like fades out so quickly, so that tone would have faded out very quickly, and my hair would have turned back to being blonde without any issue, without having to bleach it, without having to strip it, without anything. But now, if I want to have my hair blonde again, now I'm in trouble. Now I'm going to have to use bleach or color remover or a stripper and really damage my hair, which is exactly what I didn't want to happen. So that's what's very upsetting to me, is like, now I have no choice. If I want to rock blonde hair again, I'm gonna have to do all that damage to my hair again, which is exactly what I didn't want. Because what would have happened if it was just a tad bit of purple, on the roots, that wouldn't have been any big deal, and that would have eventually probably faded almost back to, being somewhat gray. It would have come out pretty easily. But now when you're talking about a whole head of purple, and especially because this entire bang, which is most of the length of my hair, is really dark now, there's no way that that's gonna fade out, I think, and just be able to, dye again to some shade of blonde. It's not gonna happen. So please, I'd really like to hear from a hairdresser, somebody who's experienced how this happens. What was the mistake? What was the problem? Why did this happen? That's what I want to know. I want to know how this happened. Like, why did it happen? What was the mistake? What was the technique flaw? And, you know, if you happen to know of somebody who can actually do like good work in Rhode Island, because that's where I live. You know, I don't live in Los Angeles, I don't live in Beverly Hills. Um, you know, I'm not on Rodeo Drive or, you know, in New York, so we don't have, you know, the most fantastic salons in the world here. But I just want to show you before I go the sample of work, just because I feel like somebody should have an idea of like what the heck is the picture I swear I had on. Oh, here it is. So this is the one who did the blue like splotches, like that in the dye that you could barely even see, like you couldn't even tell like the color difference when I got home. In fact, some people told me I should go get my money back because you couldn't even tell that there was any difference besides for that like one tip of blue at the end. But this is supposedly the woman's other like portfolio work, and this is gonna die, isn't it? I mean, look at how great these transitions are from these colors, the rainbow colors, the transitions here. Like, I don't understand how you can do work like that. So I feel like this person stole somebody else's work, or maybe photoshopped it, or I don't know if there's people like in that pictures are wearing different colored wigs, because I guess a couple of my friends said that it looks like it's like all the same like person just wearing different wigs. But you can't see the face or anything, so I'm not really sure how they would know that. But and it seems like it's very like unethical and shady to use other people's works or Instagram photos or whatever and pretend like that was something that you did and you have that skill and talent, and you're representing yourself to have a lot more talent and experience than you do. And like, to me, I'm like, why would a stylist even want to do that? Like, if I'm your stylist and you come in and you want something and I know damn well that I can't do it, like, why would I even sit you down in the chair? Like, am I that greedy for money that I'm just gonna make your hair look horrible and send you on your way and just collect my $70 or whatever and hope you don't, you know, complain? I don't get it. Is that really how some stylists like view like their job? Like, I'll just do a really crappy job, you know, or especially like if you set somebody up for like the expectations to be so high, and then you do such like poor quality work. And then on top of it, like in today's day and age, I can understand maybe, I don't know, 30 years ago, it's like, all right, even if you did like really crappy work and people left unhappy, like, you know, there wasn't the internet, so people weren't able to like spread that around. But now that there's the internet, like, why would you even, like, you know, exactly, you're setting yourself up to get like nasty complaints and bad reviews online. And why would you do that? And hurt your business, because, you know, every person who reads that thing, like, you know, probably for every one customer who complains, I've heard like, you know, you lose like 10 customers. So I mean, I don't understand what that really serves, because maybe you got my $70 or my $120 or however much the service cost, and maybe I didn't ask for my money back, maybe I didn't complain. What was it? One thing is, yeah. So, but you know, you keep my money, but if I complain on the internet and 10 people read that, well, now that's $700 that you could have potentially made that is now locked out the door on you, you know, or never came in the door rather, because of the bad review that they saw about your salon. So to me, that really doesn't make any sense why you would take on a job that you know that you can't do, or you would misrepresent your work, you know, especially to the point where, like, you know, you're like saying like my work is A plus and your work is really more like D minus, like it barely, you know, you're in the failing category there, like, you know, you're not gonna get good reviews online, honey, that's for sure. people who you've done your hair are not going to come back to have their hair done again. That's for sure. I don't get it. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Just stick to what you know how to do. If you don't know how to do it, send somebody on their way, recommend another stylist that you know. I mean, just be a decent human being and don't just like take somebody's money and then just do a shitty job and just hope that they're not going to complain. And I mean, in a way, I feel bad because sometimes I'm like, is it me? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I doing something wrong? Am I like not being clear enough about like what I'm like hoping my hair to look like? When I say purple, was there some confusion that it was supposed to be blue? I mean, because I feel like I've had so many problems with these salons, and I'm like, they say, oh, well, if people keep having problems with somebody, then it's gotta be them, it's not the person. So then I'm like, all right, well, is it me? Is it something that I'm doing? But I can't think of anything that I'm doing wrong. I tried to do my research. I took recommendations. I asked for samples. I really can't help it if somebody misrepresents their work to me. I have no idea until I go in there, unless like I'm talking in. Not only was I saw samples, but there was also actually people who recommended her. Now, whether or not they wanted to get ombre or they got a solid color or a haircut, I guess that's probably something that I should have clarified. But between the number of photographs and the recommendation from an actual person, I figured, they are good at what they do. I mean, maybe it was my mistake. I don't know. I mean, is there something wrong with this? Is this ombre and I'm crazy? Or, does this look almost like somebody diluted hair dye and then just kind of like rubbed it in, and it kind of like, it got like lightly on some, and then, I guess like, let's say that you took a big chunk and just grabbed your roots, so that took a lot more hair, but then there's other places that are also darker. So, I mean, I don't know. Please, somebody help me. Explain how this happens.